Pearls. Pearls are as much fun as seed beads or anything else to apply with the tambour hook. Very simple. You just need to keep a few things in mind. Now, in this case, we are applying a graduated row of pearls from small to large back to small again, and we want to do that along a serpentine line. So you have to preset your pearls on your thread, and you usually, normally I would do it like this, lay it out to make sure that it's the length that I need. And as always, the ubiquitous 1, 2, 3 beginning stitch. I can't say enough about this. It's so important to be very confident in your beginning stitch, because that's what's going to hold everything in place. One forward, one back, one forward again, and then you're ready to go. So now we're just going to follow. Now, in dealing with pearls, because they are considerably larger than my usual seed beads, I have to pay particular attention to my stitch length. I don't want the stitches too tight, and I don't want them so that the pearls can flop around. But because I'm using a strand of graduated pearls, as I go through these 4, now I'm starting to get to a slightly larger size, so I have to watch my stitch length and increase it enough for those pearls to fit comfortably. And as the pearls get bigger, my stitches have to get a little bit longer, because you don't want 2 pearls trying to fit in the same space, because they will go out of line, just like that. Nope, that one will fall right into place. But that's how you will that's what it will look like if it doesn't have enough space. So you just keep on going with your pearls. Hopefully you don't drop your thread, but you know what? It happens. And while it's open, I can give that one just a little bit more room so that I can make sure that when it's off the frame, it will stay in line. And we just continue stitching down the row. It's not anything terribly difficult. It probably takes longer to set up your rows of pearls if you're following a particular design like that than it is to stitch them on. But it does, they do make a really nice, leave a nice effect on a design, to be able to have little pearl accents here and there, especially in graduated work. Now here's another use of graduated pearls, but this is going to be a whole loop of them hanging from one spot. Again, 1, 2, 3, beginning stitch. 1, 2, 3. Now, instead of taking 1 pearl, I'm going to take the whole bunch of them. So I'm going to go to this little bit to the side, just so that I can make sure that the 2 pearls will sit next to each other. This gets a little tricky to catch that thread, because you've got all of these pearls. There's probably a good 4 inches of thread in between there. So what I end up doing is really just setting the thread on the hook, carefully pulling it up, getting that loop out of the way so I can make a second stitch and then another final stitch here. Because what's happening here is your 1, 2, 3 beginning and your 1, 2, 3 ending are going to be almost on top of each other. Now let's look at making one of these rather exquisite designs. It's nothing more than a circle, obviously, with a bunch of pear-shaped stones, some graduated pearls, and a stone in the center. But this would make an exquisite decorative button on a hat or on a lapel or a collar, and it's very, very easy to make. You have to kind of lay out your pattern first so that you know what size of a circle you're going to need, and then also how many beads you're going to put in a row. So here's how this starts. We have our circle, and I've measured it all out so that I know I want, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 beads per each row, and I know that that circle is going to fit so many rows of beads plus some stones in between, because I laid it out before that. Marked where each of the pearls should rest on the perimeter. We're going to stitch from the outside to the inside, not necessarily going directly to that point, but aiming at that point. And once again, the ever popular beginning and ending stitch. We're going to stitch from the outside edge of the circle towards the center, not necessarily meeting at the center, especially if you're going to put a stone or something or a larger pearl in the middle of it. You need to leave space. But I'm just showing you the basic technique. 1, 2, 3 beginning stitch, and then you take your first bunch of pearls and you go from the largest one down till you feel another large one, and that's where you stop. Go roughly to the center, take the stitch, pull it back like we did on the isolated elements, bring your thread around, make the stitch there, and then stitch with fairly small stitches up the perimeter. You don't want to use one big stitch there because it can leave things to become very loose, and you don't want the thread to get in the way of other things that you're doing. So here's the second one. Stitch, pull it back to the edge, and bring your thread back, and then continue to stitch. And you can see here that the pearls there are more pearls on the thread or on the stitch than will lay flat against the fabric, and that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted to have them to have a little bit of height, and you can adjust that by adding another pearl or reducing it so it isn't quite so high. Ultimately, you don't want them to flop over. You want them to be able to stand up pretty much by themselves. So it's a trial and error type of thing till you get just the right number of pearls and then just the right length of stitch so that it all comes together. But when it does, it really is quite effective. Now the sample showed pink Swarovski stones in between. You could use other pear-shaped stones, pear-shaped beads. You could put pear-shaped pearls in between these spokes. There's all kinds of possibilities. You're really only limited by your imagination and your supplies. And of course, when you get done, you end off with a 1, 2, 3. I'm only going to go part way around the circle because you can get the idea of how this works. And there we have a little bit of trimming. There we have the finish. So this is how it looks. The Serpentine Row of graduated pearls from smaller size, and you could even get smaller ones, up to a larger one, back down to the smaller one again. That's always effective. And then our standing rows of pearls, you can see how much height those actually have. And what you're seeing there is I used a blue thread so that you could see the thread better, and you can see the threads underneath of the organza. And then the last one is our hanging loop, which can be a very, very effective scattered motif on any design. And there you have it, pearls.